Hello and welcome to the Rising Coaches Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Bender, and today's episode is brought to you in part by one of our favorite sponsors, Dr. Dish. Dr. Dish is by far one of the best shooting machines on the market, and if you want a discount off a new machine, just mention risingcoaches.com to save up to $300. For more information, visit drdishbasketball.com or visit one of their social media platforms at Dr. Dish B-Ball. Also, if you're not already a member and interested in joining the largest coaching tree in basketball, visit risingcoaches.com to sign up today. You'll build genuine relationships with other coaches, have access to amazing content that will allow you to develop your craft, expand your network, and see job opportunities on our member site that don't get posted anywhere else. For more information, visit risingcoaches.com and become a member today. All right, our special guest today goes by Coach G, Gameli Ahelegbe.
Very good. Very good.
Man, I've been working on it for 2 straight weeks, waiting for you to get on this podcast with me. But how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Good. I cannot complain. You're out recruiting today, I heard.
Yep. Out recruiting out in the good middle of the state in good old Lincoln, Nebraska.
Awesome. You drove it all the way from St. Thomas, from St. Paul, Minnesota. Is that
St.
correct?
Paul, Minnesota, out to Lincoln, Nebraska. Make a quick stop down Des Moines, Iowa for their state tournament, and then head back to the great city of St. Paul, Minnesota.
That's awesome. So how did you get to St. Thomas University? Give us a little bit of background on your coaching journey and how you got to where you are today.
Yep, a little background. I won't go too far back, but it's coming full circle, believe it or not. I used to be a basketball trainer at 43 Hoops, and I was doing that for about 3-4 years, and then the crop of kids that I was training all started going to college, like the Anthony Tuckers, the Jordan Taylors, the Armand Battles, the Mike Bruchewitz of the world started going to college, and then I started getting a bunch of younger kids. And when I started getting these younger kids, I felt like I started getting to a babysitting service. And what I'm learning now, because I also have 4 kids. I'm already going off a tangent here, but it'll come all together. What I'm realizing is that watching youth sports, just how crazy some parents can get, and the expectations with the level of kid just never matches, right? And so, um, going back to training at 43, once I started getting these younger kids, I started to realize like this is like babysitting, and some of these kids and their expectations don't match, and I'm not cut out for this. And so I decided to go back to school, and I chose St. Thomas to get my master's degree. And so I was at St. Thomas getting my master's degree, and part of my internship, I went and essentially GA'd at Minnesota State Mankato. And so I did that for a year, and then fell in love with the coaching deal in college. And Chris Carr, a mentor of mine who's coaching at Division II in Drury, was like, "Hey, you should try the college coaching thing." And because I went back to school at St. Thomas to get my master's, it's kind of what helped me get into the profession, because I went back to my alma mater at Minnesota State Mankato to coach there for a year, fell in love with that. And then while I was doing that, I was dating my current wife at the time and realized that I actually liked my wife. So I proposed without having any money. And so when you're a GA, you don't really make many dollars. And so I figured out how to get a job. And so after my volunteer year / G at Mankato, I took a Division III job at Concordia College in Moorhead. Was there for 1 year under Rich Glass, who's now retired, living in, last time I talked to him, he's in Orlando, out west in Seattle, I believe, or Oregon, somewhere out there. So did that for 1 year under him. Went to North Dakota for 3 years under Brian Jones, and then went to South Dakota. I was there for the last 7, so I got to be one of the few people that's lived in both North Dakota and South Dakota, and that was not planned. And funny story. So me and my wife are both from the Twin Cities, and when we left Concordia to go to Grand Forks, University of North Dakota, I was a little worried that my wife would think Grand Forks is a small community. And when we went out there, my wife was like, "Okay, it's kind of small because the Twin Cities is. I mean, if you've been to it's over 100,000. It's like 1 million people out here, right?" and Grand Forks is basically a town of 75,000 people. It's like living in one suburb and that's all you have. And so my wife adjusted that, and then I told her, babe, we're leaving Grand Forks and we're going to Vermilion, South Dakota. And I played at Mankato, so at the time, South Dakota was in the league I played in the NCC. And so I only been there as a player. When I took the job, I never visited the place. I just remember as a player, that's how small the community was. And I was just like, God, my wife is going to kill me because I took her from Grand Forks and brought her to Vermilion. And she thought Grand Forks was small and Vermilion's a town of 10,000 people. And so I'm like, I got to make sure I sell this right. Like, babe, we got Sioux Falls, we got Sioux City, Yankton. And, but we end up having 7 good years there. And then when the story broke nationally about St. Thomas getting kicked out of their league, as a guy who got his master's degree from there, it kind of piqued my interest. And I knew the head coach there, Johnny Tower. He actually tried to recruit me out of high school when they were Division 3, and he has this whole story about how I politely told him no because I don't really remember him trying to recruit me here. But we sparked a conversation, and we've ran into each other on the road recruiting, Final Fours, and whatnot. And so when the news broke that they got kicked out of their league, I was like, that's interesting. So I just followed the story, just being familiar with the school, getting my master's degree there, and just knowing their success. I was curious to see what was going to happen. And, I called him right away, like, dude, is this true that you guys got kicked out? He's like, yeah, just, I don't know. But we just started talking more and more. And then he started asking me more questions about the Seminole League. I was like, is this, two and two together? And next thing you know, the news broke that they're going Division 3. Is a school that's never done it before, go from 3 to 1. And that really was piqued my interest as far as a challenge, because no one can ever say they've been a part of a program going from Division 3 to Division 1, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so I left a great spot in South Dakota to come to a better spot in St. Thomas, and obviously back home for me because I'm from Oakdale, Minnesota, suburb of St. Paul. So here I am. That was a kind of a long-winded story to get there, but
No, all good things. So you might be the first person ever to be, I guess, in college basketball has lived in both North Dakota, South Dakota. And
yeah,
you really did come full circle. So you started in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, and you came
yeah,
back and you brought your wife on the journey with you. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah,
So tell me, you mentioned 43 Hoops, and
yeah,
for those who don't know 43 Hoops, one of the first like real gyms and training, and
for sure.
AU, and one of the beginning parts, you had Chris Carr,
Yeah,
and you talked about, it turned into like babysitting. So tell
yeah.
me, do you feel like coaching college basketball some days that you still are babysitting? And then,
Um,
give some parents out there a little bit of advice. You mentioned, it's getting crazier and crazier. And
mhm.
what would you tell parents, or what would have to tell yourself or your wife when you're watching your kids play?
Yeah, and it's funny. So I have a fourth grader who's playing, and so I get to see youth sports at a whole different level right now. And the reason why I said babysitting, because at the youth ages, I feel like the game is supposed to be fun. And I'm gonna give my son a little pub. AJ um, is actually a decent little player, and I'm biased. Obviously, I'm his dad, but I'm also a realist, so I didn't give him his due credit. But when we moved here, I was like, God, gee, your kid's pretty good. You must be training him. You must. And I'm like, no, I don't train my kid at all. I just want my kid to have fun playing the game and finding his own passion for it. Because I was very adamant about making sure that I'm not making him play basketball because that's what dad does. And so, granted, he's been around it because that's what I do, but I've never made him play. And so he has his own love and passion for the game. Not, I may have influenced it, but I didn't make him play the game, right? He's played soccer, he's tried T ball, didn't like that. We've done flag football, but basketball's clearly his passion and kind of for all my kids. But I think right now in youth sports, just watching it as a parent with my own kids, a lot of parents are taking the joy away from the kids because they're just putting too much pressure on winning and fourth and fifth grade basketball, right? Where at that age, it's all about developing and getting better and having fun playing the game, right? At fourth and fifth, you can't win a world championship in fourth or fifth grade. You can't get a scholarship in fourth or fifth grade. And you're not going to the NBA in fourth and fifth grade. Some of these kids will quit playing basketball by the time they get to eighth grade. And so the amount of pressure and animosity that's happening between parents and fighting, like we all see video clips going viral of parents fighting refs, parents fighting each other over youth sports, which is just comical to me. And again, I used to be a trainer, so I do think there is a value in training. Um, but you shouldn't be putting your kid in training because that's what you think he should be doing. It should be more so that's what the kid wants to do. And it's more so just you're putting that kid in that training because you're trying to help mold the kid to be around like positive role models, essentially, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I just think too many parents and adults put way too much stock in youth sports when no one remembers the best fourth or fifth grader in the country. And so I know that's my
Well,
little
with
power.
Twitter and Instagram nowadays, I mean, we might know what that is here coming,
Oh, I know.
but
Yeah, that's out there. People are
really
ranking fourth and
interesting.
fifth graders.
Yeah, so my daughter's only 18 months old, and we haven't even gotten started in any of that kind of stuff. But we I can see what you're saying, and it's so important and so pivotal that you continue to have fun. And the same thing goes to your kids that you coach now. Is
Yeah,
hey, what's the principle? What's the why? Why are we playing?
right,
At the end of the day, yes, you're getting your school paid for, and it's somewhat a business at times, but basketball is supposed to be fun, and
right,
keeping it fun and the culture, and
right,
developing it and the relationships that you build and all those types of things.
right.
Is there anything that you find very like, you mentioned you started at Mankato and you played there, and then you kind of dabbled into coaching, but you knew that you loved it and you kept saying, I love it. What is it about coaching, college coaching, basketball that creates that love for you?
Yeah, I think one, it's for sure the relationships that you build with in coaching, and then the impact you can leave on people, right? And funny story, not a funny story, but it kind of validated my why. So I went recruiting in the Twin Cities, went to a local game, um, and I wasn't really recruiting anyone off of either team, but I knew it was a good game. I wanted to be there. I just wanted to see and whatnot. And when I went to this game, I ran into one of my former players, and I actually haven't seen him in a while because it was early in my career when I was actually coaching at 43 Hoops. And this kid, you know, didn't come from the two-parent home, inner city kid. And I just remember the potential the kid had, but didn't have kind of the guidance and was like, you know, it was either he's going to take basketball or he's going to get trapped in the streets, right? And I didn't want that for this kid. And so I remember I used to like harp on this kid all the time, like, dude, make sure you're hitting the books. And I was like, I was kind of on this kid a lot. And then obviously we kind of, how AAU is, you go your different paths and you grow. And I try to keep in contact with a lot of kids I've coached. And so obviously with social media, that's the one benefit of social media. You can keep tabs on people that you've crossed paths with earlier and whatnot. And so we've kept in contact through social media, but I haven't seen them in 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 years. And so I ran into him at this game. And he was like, Coach G. We give this 2-minute hug. And he's like, man, I ain't seen you in forever, da 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 da. And he just starts going, he's like, man, I've been waiting to see you because I want to let you know that you've been one of my favorite coaches because you've been one of the few coaches that's ever really harped on me about academics, doing the right thing, da 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 da. And because of that, like he has a kid now, he's like, the stuff that you used to preach to me is what I'm preaching to my kids now. And so when he told me that, I'm like, God, well, I'm glad you was listening. Or, I want what's best for you. It was never about me. I just wanted to kind of push you in the direction I thought would benefit you. And he was like, no, you really impacted me because of how you was on top of me. And so it's just those type of stories that when you hear them, um, kind of validates my why, because I think you can learn a lot of life lessons through the game of basketball, whether it's teamwork, working in groups, work ethic, um, motivating yourself, intrinsic motivation, adversity, because obviously when you go through a season, you got peaks and valleys and whatnot. But I just think you can learn a lot through the game of basketball. And I think that's my vehicle of teaching and helping mold young men to be men and be better leaders in society. So that's become my why. It's kind of long winded, maybe not a simple answer, but
No, nothing.
impacting
I
kids.
don't think anything is simple anymore. But you can take the core principles and the values of what you said, and it's very easy to understand what you're about and why you did get into coaching, and why you've continued to coach and why you've been a successful coach is that relationship skills and understanding that it is bigger than basketball and different things. And
Hmm.
I can relate to that wholeheartedly. Is that's why I do it. The
Right,
the passion of the game, obviously. Humility not being about myself, and
right,
that goes into it. But I love basketball. I love the relationships, and changing and impacting others is what it's all about, and those
right,
continuous relationships for years and years and years.
right.
So share with me. So you've mentioned some of the places you've been, and you say North Dakota, and you've been at South Dakota, and then now
Right.
you're at a transitional school, that a very very good one that people are going to know about here soon,
Hmm.
college landscape. But you're in a probation period, going D3 to D1,
Yep.
and then you have the weather and the places of North Dakota and South Dakota. So how have
Right.
you been able to recruit kids to come to these places when it's obviously not the quote unquote best job in the league, or
Right.
you have limitations in whatever you want to make an excuse, or say there's limitations to.
Right.
Talk to us about how have you overcome that, and maybe a few philosophies without sharing all your deep dark secrets
Right. Yeah.
of
I'm
how
happy
you've been
to
able
do
to
that.
do
I think at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said initially about having uh, authentic relationships. Um, as you know, I mean, you're a college coach, you're a head coach right now, and recruiting is our lifeline, right? No matter where you're at, recruiting is your lifeline. And I think people take for granted that recruiting is building relationships with people, where you can have relationships with people that you trust that will essentially help you get players. And I guess I just been fortunate enough through my coaching at 43 Hoops, being from Minnesota, and just having the ability to build relationship with people. I think that's been one of my benefits. And I'm not a salesman. That's one thing that's for sure. I'm not. I can't. I'm not. I'm not a salesman. And so when I recruit kids, I try to find guys that are, for lack of better terms, just ball players, basketball players that love being in the gym. Because if you love being in the gym, it doesn't matter where you play. Because if you're in the gym, you're in your happy place. And the places I've been at, we've had to find people that believe in themselves and love playing and love challenges. Because when I was at North Dakota, we just finished a transition, and it's not a sexy place where you want to be. So you have to have the utmost belief in yourself that no, I can go there and I can help you win in that spot. And South Dakota, same deal. It's not a sexy place, but again, having people that have the utmost belief in themselves that they can go help turn the program around is kind of um, how we've been able to have success in all the spots I've been at. And I think to go with that, it's just the character of the people that we've been able to recruit. Because if you have belief in yourself and you're surrounded with other people with high character values, and you put those collection of people together, I think anything is possible, especially if you have guys that work hard and all those other intangibles that everyone wants in a player. But one of our slogans we always used to say is, "You win with people first." And if you have the right people, obviously you have to be talented people, but you win with people first. So if you're a bad person, you're always going to be a bad person, no matter how talented you are. And usually, bad people don't bring people together, right? And the game of basketball is a collective of five people having to work together. And if you're not one of those people that can work together with other people, you won't have success. And so, find good character kids that are talented, that believe in themselves, that are up for any challenge, and then anything's possible. And I've been fortunate enough that obviously I've been on great staffs, worked with great people that um, all have common value of impacting people, and so we've had some success with everywhere I've been.
Yeah. I thought, a very good synopsis there. And, you said loving basketball. And I always got a joke, there's basketball is an indoor sport for a reason, right? So
Yeah,
it doesn't matter where you are. If they love
that's
basketball,
not where you're at.
in the gym, and it's 70 degrees in every gym in the country, whether it's AC on or the heater on. So
Yes,
all good things. All good.
yes. Yeah,
Uh,
obviously, if you have nice facilities and all that stuff, that helps too. And I've been fortunate enough in the Dakotas, which it kind of has to be. They have nice facilities, so that's worked to my benefit.
Moving down here to the south, I had never experienced the dire need of air conditioning to keep your floor from sweating. That was like a concept that I didn't really understand. Is that when it would rain outside, you better have your AC at like 60 degrees, or it's going to be a slip and slide and you can't practice. I learned that the hard way a couple times when I first became
Right,
a coach down here in Mississippi.
right.
Um,
Yeah,
but,
that'd be tough.
but when we were in Williams Arena, we had to worry about ice on the roof and it would leak onto the floor. So it's
Yeah,
like everywhere you go, there's always something
there's always challenges everywhere you're at.
for sure. You talked about your wife moving her, across different places and balancing four kids. How have you done that? I think, being a head coach, I've found that you have a lot more freedom, and I'm able to kind of pick and choose when you practice and do different things, and you can delegate. But as
Mhm.
an assistant, you always don't have that power. So how, what how have you been able to manage, your wife and kids? From a family perspective, and I know you're a big family man. How do you manage that as a Division One assistant?
I'll be honest. I've worked with really good bosses that also value family time. Um, and I guess that would be one advice I'd give anyone. Because obviously, this is rising coaches. You guys have a big platform of guys getting into the business. I think for me, I knew what was important to me, and every coach I worked for, they've always known me as like I've always made it very clear that family is important to me, and I've just been very fortunate enough to work with bosses that also value family. And on top of that, I think um, I've had the luxury of my wife. Um, she used to work. Actually, she used to be Chris Carr's nanny, and so I think that's is a major benefit because she's got to see the NBA lifestyle when Chris was playing in the NBA, and so she understood kind of the basketball landscape from that point of view as being a nanny. And so when we started dating, one of the things she'd always say is just like, as long as me and my kids are taken care of and I could get my nails done, I'll be fine. And so it's kind of been our inside joke that I just shared with everyone. But my wife is, as you know, it's, you're kind of almost a single parent at times. Just with how much travel we're doing. And if you don't have a spouse that can be able to handle things on her own, then it'll be very difficult. And so I've been extremely lucky to have a wife that understands my job and loves my job and allows me to do my job to the best of my abilities. Um, but without her support, it's not possible. And so I think the one thing that we try to do a lot, or for me, I try to do to bring the two together, is I try to bring family to work and work home. And not work home as like, I mean, obviously I watch film and all that stuff at home, but like I try to have our guys see what home is like for me with my kids and get my kids involved and my wife involved. And so I try to find ways to intertwine the two. And so, like, one of the things that, you know, my wife, I should say, has gotten very popular with in all the spots we've done. We've always started hosting Thanksgiving dinner, so we've made it a big deal. And obviously, a lot of places I've been is because kids are from all over the place, and so we've tried to give them like a little bit of a home feel, right? Like we've all been in college away from home, and it's like, God, I just want a home cooked meal. And so we've taken Thanksgiving and made a whole big festivity with our guys. And it got to a point where each year our guys get excited for Thanksgiving dinner because like I make our guys dress up to come to my house. You can't come in sweats. And my wife and my sister-in-law would usually come, and one of my wife's friends would usually come over, and I'd make our guys always have to play charades. And so we'd play different games and kind of make it a fun family atmosphere. And it's been a hit, and we've done it and we've been doing it now for sure 10 years. I've done it. It started at North Dakota, and it's carried on everywhere I've been. And it's been fun. Like my wife has now got like a tablecloth with people's autographs on it, and that's kind of been one of our household deals of doing Thanksgiving dinners. And so that's kind of some of the ways I try to intertwine the two. Now that my kids are getting a little older, I will take them recruiting with me sometimes. Um, so yeah, just trying to find ways to bring my kids, my family, with me to the job and bring my team home with me. That's a happy blend.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and I love the Thanksgiving tradition, and keeping everybody involved. Just
Yeah,
they're gonna care because you care so much about what you do, and
right,
people that you care about most, not only your players who you're spending even more time with than your actual kids probably at times,
right,
like having them intertwined and being a part of your
yeah.
journey and their journey, and it's helping shape them in ways that you probably don't even know that is really happening. And I think that's really powerful. And
No, for
I
sure, and
think
it even goes back to what I said about recruiting good people. Because if you don't have good people, I'm not going to want them in my house. So it all intertwines with the type of people you have around, and because, like you said, those kids look up to our players, right? And like AJ, like I coached Matt Mooney, played for us at South Dakota. Matt Mooney, if you watch him at Texas Tech, he wears two wristbands on his wrist, kind of the old school deal. And so my son now is wearing wristbands on his wrist because of Matt Mooney, right? Like you just never know how what type of impact your players are going to have on your kids. And so that's why for me it's important to make sure I have good kids in our program that not only impact me but impact my kids.
yeah, a prerequisite. They have to like Thanksgiving.
Yep.
They got to be able to get along with the kids. That's awesome.
Hmm.
Now you have a couple unique things, with your background. So your parents are from Ghana, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then you played in the ABA. Tell us a
Yep.
little bit about those two things that
Ooh.
most people don't know much about.
Yeah. Um, so the semi-pro world is so when I got done playing, I wanted to, like every athlete, when I wanted to play professionally, I was like, oh, I want to be an NBA. I wasn't that good of a player. I mean, I was a decent player, but not an NBA player. And I had an opportunity to play in the ABA when I graduated, and it was a startup ABA team in Toledo, Ohio. We were called the Toledo Ice, and I had a really good time, but it's like any startup company, right? So when your finances, getting the right people on the bus, your leadership, the whole deal, and so it was um, it was a unique experience. I mean, so I'll give you one story that's this good and bad of playing in a startup ABA team. And so they housed us. They didn't have all the housing stuff figured out, and so they had us living in this hotel. Um, it was a Days Inn, right? Which is in modern days hotels now. The Days Inn is not one of your side out hotels you'd stay in, and so we were staying at the Days Inn, is where they had us starting off, and would have breakfast there and whatnot. And I remember this time I I went to go have breakfast, but I left like my jewelry, some money on my counter, And I'm like, oh, I'll just go in. And again, it's a hotel and it's probably my fault. But I remember vividly that I went to breakfast and I'm on my way back. I see the guy, kind of one of the hotel people that clean your rooms, housekeeper people, leave our room. I'm like, oh, that's strange because they're usually when we live in a hotel, they don't have to clean your room unless if you ask. Like, that's strange. This guy's kind of in our room. And so I get in my room and like kind of looking around and I realize that my jewelry's missing and my $300 are missing. And I'm like, um, yo, did you just, he's like, no, no, no. And it was like, I don't even know what country he was from, but he couldn't speak great English. And so I'm like, hey, did you just take my stuff? He's like, no, 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 I didn't take nothing. I'm like, no, there was this there and this there, and now it's missing. And you've been the only person that's been in my room. And so I put up this big fuss. I told that owner, like, yo, if this is the type of operation we're running, like, this is not good. So he was like, sorry, we'll figure it out. And I didn't get my stuff back, but they moved me out of that hotel and put me in a different one, which was way better. But it was the basketball part of it was really, really good. Some of the players that were playing in the league, Ron Artest's little brother was in the league. Wasn't as crazy as Ron Artest, but he was pretty talented. He was like 6'5", 6'6", built like Ron Artest, kind of similar games. Armand Gillian, he was in the league like a old NBA player that still wanted to play. He was kind of like a player coach. He was part of the Pittsburgh Explosion, I believe their name was. Um, but it's an interesting deal because you see, and that's also a reason why I know like the game of basketball is hard to be a pro because even at that level, there was a bunch of high major players. Like a dude on our team was played at Clemson, and you just see all walks of basketball life, high major, former NBA players, guys that played overseas, that are all still chasing that dream of being an NBA player. And that experience for me was great, but I knew like, okay, I was smart enough to know that basketball is not in my cards. I don't need to chase this professional dream forever and lose out on opportunities of coach because I've always knew I wanted to coach at an early age. Excuse me. And so how well that experience was going for me, basketball wise, I mean, I was a starting point guard. We actually got to the playoffs, and we ended up losing. I think it was like the first round of the playoffs. When, as a startup team, making the playoffs the first year was kind of hard, and we made it. And we had good like Jamel Stanton, who played with me at Minnesota State Mankato. Levi Jones played at Nebraska Omaha. We had another guy, Rob Saunders, played at UW Milwaukee. That was on that Sweet 16 team under Bruce Pearl was on our team. So we had a collection of guys, and we actually ended up winning. Melvin Newborn was a coach, former golfer. Um, so it was quite the experience of feeling like an NBA player. You're traveling to all these different cities. It's like your job. So I got the experience of I got paid to play a game of basketball, but it wasn't at the level of what you dream of being an NBA player or even playing overseas. And so that experience was like, okay, this is not meant for me. And I think I wish more guys would realize that, it's okay to not have to play the game and pursue it when it's not going your way. Just go to a different path of whatever you went to school for. And I was just fortunate enough that I got to play, I got paid, but it wasn't in the cards for me. So I gave it up and got into coaching.
It's awesome.
It was a
There's
great
two
choice.
parts of it. Then we'll touch base back with your parents, but the ABA experience sounds interesting, and obviously getting robbed is probably not the highlight of your career as a
Mm-mm.
pro, but it just kind of proves like how many people still don't want to give up dreams and don't want to
Yeah,
give up passions and will do anything at any
yeah,
cost in essence to try and continue those dreams. And that comes back to kind of what you talked about at the beginning. Is like, hey, basketball is supposed to be fun. How do we
right,
continue to make it fun?
right,
And whether you're making money, not making money, being around the game is something that we should be grateful for every single day.
right,
Sometimes we take it for granted.
right,
Some people's, our worst days are still better than a lot of people's best days, and
right.
you have to remember that as we coach and as we do things, and kind of go through it. But you mentioned another name, Melvin Newborn.
Oh yeah.
and he actually was friends with my uncle who played football there, and he was the one who originally gave me the number to the basketball office at the University of Minnesota when I was
Nice.
coming into Minnesota as a freshman, and put me in touch with the right person. The right person was James Ware. James was
Wow.
the coach at Park Center and hired
Yeah.
me, and that's the best player you coached, right? Since
Yeah.
there it is, full circle.
Full circle.
We knew.
That's the beauty of the game of basketball, right? It's
Yep.
such a small community that, again, it goes back to what you talked about at the very beginning. It's a relationship based business that people seem to forget that you may never know who you come in contact with and who they're connected to, right? Like we brought up Melvin Newburn, and who knew the connection that brings to you?
Yep.
Crazy.
Amazing. Well, talk a little bit about your background there with your parents and stuff.
Yeah. Um, my parents are definitely the reason why I am the way I am, obviously. So my dad, both my parents, all my siblings were born and raised in Ghana except for me and my little brother. And my dad is the one who came to the States first, kind of wanted that American dream. And he came in college he was already married to my mother. They had three kids already, or yeah, three kids. There's seven of us, so I can't keep track anymore. There's five. Actually, it doesn't matter. They had a bunch of kids already before, but my dad came to the States for college, and he used to tell me stories because my dad came and was in Baltimore first and was going to Morgan State, and he was hustling, and bustling there, and he was talking about how he was basically homeless. He didn't really know anybody. He had one friend, and that one friend was in Minnesota. And so while he was hustling, bustling, he used to talk to his friend in Minnesota all the time about, God, this is not the American dream I thought it would be. Like trying to go to college, trying to work. He was telling me how he used to be like a dishwasher and all these things, trying to make ends meet. And he's like, dude, why don't you just come to Minnesota and I will help you kind of get you on your feet and help you get yourself situated with college. And so my dad was like, you know what? I'm coming, and came to Minnesota. And my dad actually graduated from St. Thomas, which is a little another tidbit. And because of that one friend, is what brought my dad to Minnesota. And once he finally kind of got established, and my dad, again, I think his work ethic from him because he graduated from St. Thomas as a business material merchant purchaser. Basically, like he bought materials. He used to work at Tenant, the street cleaner company. So he kind of got this really good job out of college. Brought my mom, and then so my parents were here, had me and my little brothers, and then, um, when I was like in second grade, then brought my older siblings over. So my older siblings lived in Ghana even without my parents, while my parents were getting things established in America, and then brought my siblings over when they were in sixth and eighth grade.
Hmm.
And so that was an interesting experience for myself because here I have older siblings living in a whole different country, coming to a new country that I know nothing about, and trying to navigate that world of language barrier, trying to make friends, try to understand the schooling systems here. And I was in elementary school, and I just remember the dialogues in our house about, education, how to get stuff, and my parents really, really preached academics. And obviously, my dad started out because that's the reason why he came here is get uh, that college degree for the better life being in America. And so he really preached academics, and because of that, I was fortunate enough to obviously get a college scholarship to play basketball. But if it wasn't for my dad and my parents preaching academics, I could have easily been just like the the stereotypes of don't care about academics, just going to play basketball. And I didn't because of my parents. And I ended up going to Mankato. Obviously, got a physical education to teaching degree. So, and my dad wanted me to be an athletic trainer, which I'm like, dude, I hate blood. I hate broken bones. Like, I'm not doing that. Because everyone in my family is in the medical field, which is like I don't understand how you guys can just look at that type of stuff all day, every day. But um, so yeah, I mean, my parents are the backbone of our family. Just through their adversities of leaving their home, coming to a whole new country, and figuring out life and getting our family component all under one roof, and trying to figure that stuff out. It was an interesting uh, thing to be a part of and see, especially from our older siblings. And I think that's a big reason why I am a giver and I want to help kids, because seeing my older brothers and sisters go through the schooling system, not speaking great English, but having help to get them through school, it's like that's pretty cool because you know it gave my siblings a chance to have success because of people that were able to help them navigate the schooling system. And so I felt like seeing that I wanted to have that type of impact on people as well. So
That's awesome. Yeah, very very unique story, and it again it comes full circle. You valuing education was
hmm
instilled in you, and then that's what you passed along to one of your players, who's now
right,
passing along to somebody's son, and that's from your dad.
right,
It's pretty cool.
yeah,
Cool, all things considered. As we kind of wrap up here, I got a couple rapid fire, like 60-second questions that we kind of ask. But is there any, before we go into those, are there any questions that I should have asked that I haven't, or that you want to talk about, or, advice to young coaches, or, guys getting in or moving jobs, or any of that kind of stuff as you've kind of navigated through this profession?
yeah. I don't know if it's any question. I think the one thing for young coaches trying to get in, I think you have to be extremely intentional about um, what you want out of your career and what you're getting in the profession for, right? Like you talked about, what is your why? I think it's important to know that. And then um, I don't do this enough, but I'm starting to do it now. I've been fortunate enough to interview for two head jobs and through those processes. I've learned just knowing your why, being able to put your why on paper, having your philosophy down, knowing, you know, how you want to play on both sides of the ball, and what is your why and why you're coaching. Because at the end of the day, obviously we're judged on wins and losses, but I think if you're able to impact people, I think you'll be able to always have a job because people know you're doing things the right way and knowing your why. And so I think it's important for young coaches to make sure they're surrounding themselves around people that invest in them, but will also push them to grow as coaches that match their value and their moral compass. I think that's extremely important in our profession.
Definitely. And as I will say, as this is my fourth year as a head coach, like, you become better at understanding those concepts and principles, even though you get lost sometimes in the wins and the losses and the outcomes. You have to go back to your why. And we talked about this, last week on the phone when we spoke.
hmm
The the first principle article I sent you. It's like,
Yep.
keep asking why until you get to the additional reason of why we do.
Yeah. Right.
Why is your why important? Oh, well, why is
Right.
it important? Why is that important? And you just keep
Right.
moving down the line, and eventually you're going to break it down to that initial principle of, you know, like you said at the beginning, hey, basketball is supposed to be fun.
hmm
That, like, let's go back to, hey,
Yeah.
let's have fun. The core principle or value of, a couple teams. You talk about Baylor, it's like joy.
Right. Joy.
Like Golden State Warriors, same type of thing. They have joy
Right.
as one of their core values, and at the end of the day, that's we get lost in that because we get so consumed in other things. And
Right.
stay pure with what we're doing and why we do it.
Why
So
we do it.
there you go. What's one thing that you believe in that other people may think is weird?
One thing I believe in that other people think is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you say weird, like just like odd, or
Uncommon, like that people would just find fascinating, different.
um, I am people that don't know me. Like I don't talk much, um, but I do feel that even though I don't talk much, I do like being around a ton of people. I like listening to other people tell their stories. And I think, I don't know, I might get myself in trouble here, but I think we're in a time in the world right now where everyone has an opinion, but no one wants to listen. And I think we need more people that are willing to listen than always having an opinion. And I think that's something I truly believe in, because if the more you listen to people, the more you can really service people's needs. And um, I think that's the reason why I approach my day-to-day job of being a giver and listening to people. And I think that's the reason why people like telling me things and talking to me, because I listen. And I think we just need more people that are willing to listen. I mean, with social media, Twitter, all these things, everyone has an opinion, but not everyone wants to listen to your opinions. And so we need more people that are willing to listen than um, always want to give their opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense.
I don't think that gets you in trouble at all. To be honest, like I think it's great leadership, and
Yeah,
the more questions that you ask, there's a reason why we have two ears and one mouth. This is a kind of a common
right,
catchphrase, but it comes down to, hey, even conversations that we have with each other, and we may vent or different things. Like every
right,
conversation has deeper values to it, but do you want me to listen or do you want me to fix it?
right,
Everyone wants to fix everything and has an opinion.
right,
But sometimes all people need is someone to listen, because the more that I get to talk or explain, it goes back down to those principles. Hey, you kind of fix your own problems if you keep talking about it. Well, why? Well, keep asking impactful questions. You're going to kind
right,
of come up with the answers, and in essence, it's more powerful when you figure out answers on your own rather than being told this is how it should be
right,
for XYZ. And
right,
I think that's really important. I thought that was really, really
right,
powerful answer. Good leadership, sir. Good
right.
leadership.
And if you listen, to your point, if you actually listen to someone, you can respond with asking proper questions to help solve problems. But if you're not listening, you're just talking. You're just telling people what to do versus listening. And yeah,
Could be, some people we do want to listen to. There's other people that we don't even care what they say. So
that's true.
all good things. All right. So as we kind of conclude, I like to ask this one, and then if you want to have any finishing touches to it, but what's the best thing that can happen in your life right now, Coach G? What's the best thing that can happen in your life right now?
Ooh, what's the best thing that could happen in my life right now? Um, it's gonna be very cliche-ish, but I think I am living my best life right now. I have a beautiful family. I got a wife, a spouse that loves me dearly and supports me dearly. I have four beautiful kids that are all in schools and participating activities that they love. Uh, I'm in a career that is a very small fraternity that is hard to get into, and I'm in it with working with great people. And I get to, I get to work with people and impact people long term to help better our society. And so, um, I mean, I could have said, more money. Everyone wants more money, right? But I think I am living my best life because I get to do what I love every day by impacting people. And I'm around a group of people that also enjoy impacting people. And so when you have that combination and you have a support system at home that allows you to continue to do that, I don't think there's any amount of money um, um, that equals that impact. And so I think I am living my best life.
That's awesome. I don't think we need to ask any more questions or say anything else. I mean, Coach G, St. Thomas University, doing a great job impacting others, listening to others, keeping basketball fun. Very grateful. Change your Thanksgiving habits. Make it fun and enjoy it. And really enjoyed listening to you tonight.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I think you're doing a great job, and I love this platform that you're doing. So, again, going back to what we talked about, I think you're impacting a lot of people with this platform and this group of rising coaches. And so, keep up the great work, and thanks for having me on.
Yep, for sure. Thank you.